If you hate sales calls and you never want to take a sales call again, but you still want your conversions and your close rate to go through the roof, this is a 22 pillar proven system that we've used in our businesses to close £1,000 packages in the DMs, and it's been no problem at all. So it's easy to implement, and you will get access to everything we've got, so you can copy the exact pillars, the scripts, everything you need to use to do this authentically within your own service business. So just to give you a bit of an introduction, first of all, what this is about. This is a tutorial video for the product that we've got, which is the Sales Mastery course for selling in the DMs. Now, this is a 22 pillar, as I said, proven system. And when I say pillar, I do not believe in scripts. We've got a lot of proof over the last 10 years where we've been selling stuff online, and more specifically with PB Academy, an online fitness coaching company that we scaled up to 250 plus active clients online. Now, the only reason I'm saying this stuff is so that you understand how much of an impact we've basically made in the online industry, and we've got a lot of history with selling stuff. With sales calls as well, which is something I spent a lot more time in doing myself personally. I've done over 1,000 calls in the last 2 years for PB Academy, and we closed at 89%. That was me personally. I am the founder, so I have that benefit of being on all the marketing material, the content, so people trust me, so my close rate is higher than most. But we still managed to do that, and 89% is really, really good over 1,000 calls. So a lot of new clients coming through the door, and that's on a bare minimum of £600 packages, which is not a lot in the grand scheme of things in terms of, you know, the finance industry, stuff like that. But I also had the opportunity to jump on with a friend to improve his offer. I dived into his sales calls just to test myself, to be honest. I really wanted to know if I was actually good at sales or not, and I applied the same pillar system that I built out for myself, and we managed to close at about 40% for me personally on that new offer where no one knew who the hell I was when I was jumping on these calls. Managed to have a really consultative, nice conversation with people, get them to pay on that same call after literally 10, 20 minutes. There was only one time it was about 10 minutes, but most of the time it'd be a 20 to 25 minute conversation. I don't want to exaggerate. So yeah, it was 20 to 25 minute conversations most of the time, and that is how they would go. That is how they would progress. So that's sales calls. Now you're probably thinking, but you said I hate sales calls and this is all about selling the DMs. Now, we also did that as well, because we were trying to scale so much that we wanted to make sure we were able to handle every single person. And sometimes people didn't want to come on calls really. They just wanted to sign up. They'd seen what we did anyway. They trusted us a lot, but they wanted to, find out a lot more. And we had to take them through the similar pillar system in the DMs. Very different to a sales conversation, because you can't really listen as much and go back and forth and really understand, to dig deep into someone, to know what they want to achieve basically. But just to be clear as well, I'm not a sales guru. I need to get this out the way first. I'm not one of those guys that's going to teach you the best way of being persuasive and handling objections and stuff like that. To me, that's fighting over the very small percentage over here at the back end of a call or conversation when you're handling objections. You should reduce the amount of objections you ever face in your life by having the first 90 to 95% of the conversation being splendid, if you want to use that term. The reason being is because the winning of the deal is done in the first 90 to 95% of the conversation. They would have made up their mind anyway. If they're the right person for you, if you're the right person for them, it's all done in the first 90 to 95%. So that's what this is about. It's about you understanding the correct pillars you need to cover in a conversation. And when I say pillar, I mean those are the hoops and hurdles you've got to jump through. Tick that box to make sure you've spoke about that specific thing before you progress and move forward down the layers towards the back end of a conversation where you literally get them to spend their hard-earned cash with you, to work with you. So that's what this is about. Like I said, as part of the Sales Mastery course, you've got access to the Sales Call course and the Selling DMs course. And in this, you get a 1 to 2 hour course, which is a full video from me covering every single pillar individually in detail. So it's 5 to 10 minutes videos for each individual pillar. And this pillar itself, I think there's 22 pillars exactly on the Selling DMs one that we cover. We also talk about the outreach strategy that may have led to the conversation initially, or the inbound method. So there's two ways that these conversations could initially start. They either get in touch with you and they come from inbound engagement, organic online, or it's an outreach method where it's come from a completely cold approach. So how do we warm them up, give value first, and then progress them forward so we come to the same place, we qualify them, we move forward, right? So like I said, let me walk you through the product, what you actually get first of all, so you understand it. This is the tutorial video, so you're watching this right now, which is step 1. Step 2 is watch the courses, spend the time, invest your time into it instead of the money, to watch the hours of content to really understand and learn from it. I promise you, this is all of my learning over the last 10 years compiled and compressed, and that's been refined over time based on what we've learned. Basically, I don't want to say the word in the trenches. We used to rinse people for saying that because you can't compare it to war, but like doing the work, right? Working hard for it. And we've got to this point where we had to use these scripts, these pillars to train people. So you get access to this. You can just copy it literally. So watch the content first though. So you understand each pillar and the goal and the reason why it's actually there. And then the G sheets is where you're going to get access to it. So you actually get access to the content there, and you can copy it and you can refine it to your own offer, your own service, so that it actually works for you. And then you can do what we did and take it from where we've left off, like we're giving you a baton, and then you run with it and you see how you get on. So that's what it's all about for us. So you get access to this. But first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to dive into the Selling DMs course now on the G sheet. So like I said, these are the pillars, right? And how it works, and I know you're thinking you're seeing 18 there, but the first part of it is going to be covered on the sheet as well. But the way I would see it is, if you're in a conversation with someone and you're typing back and forth, you need to look at where you are in that conversation, and then you need to go back and forth and make sure you tick that box. That's all you need to do. So we know in a human conversation, things go like that. They go off on tangents. They can go anywhere and everywhere. Your goal is to know there's some sort of strategy behind it, that you just direct the conversation back through that pillar, and then you go off on tangents again, back through that pillar like that. So ideally, you just want to use it like a checkbox, where you just check those boxes before you get to the pitch. And if at any point in the conversation someone asks you for a price, what do you do? I'm asking you what you do. Say it. You don't tell them the price, right? It's a service business. The moment someone hears the price or starts to think about price, they're price focused. They're thinking about price. You need them to be value focused. So not so that they can just, be kind of swooped into you eventually at the back end of the call. They don't have to pay you money if they don't want to, right? So it's not about that. It's about making sure their mind stays open and not just thinking immediately before you've talked to them, I can't afford that. That sounds expensive. Anything like that. So keep them away from price, and the way you handle that at any point is just by simply saying, everything we do is completely customized. We've got different packages, so we make sure that it's affordable, and the last thing we want is someone not being able to work with us because they simply can't afford it. So we will make something work regardless. That just makes people feel at ease, and then you can at least talk then again about the value, actually going through the pillars that you need to go through. So that's the plan, right? Go through the pillars, tick them off one by one. And this is what you're going to learn is how to actually execute this for your own business. So you'll have a step-by-step guide on the sheet. So you can copy this, literally go to file and copy it. I don't know what a copy actually is. Am I missing it? Oh, make a copy. There we go. File, make a copy, and then there's a step-by-step guide on how to actually edit it for yourself. And like I said, I don't believe in scripts, right? But the script is there as an example. Just as an example, so that you can role play it in your head when you're working out where this is going, and for me to be able to explain it to you as well. Now, just to let you know, the full course goes in depth, one video for every pillar in depth, giving you analogies, experiences, stories from my past, so that you understand why it's there, why it's important, why it must be covered. And more importantly, if you're not covering these pillars, there's probably a reason why you're not closing as many deals as you want to. So even applying one or two of these pillars to your current conversation flow of how you would, usually strategize a conversation, it's going to have a massive increase on your close rate, even in the DMs. So that's what this is about. So anyway, as we go forward, like I said, you go through all of the pillars, and I'm going to walk you through every single one of them now so you understand exactly what happens. But the first part of it, as you can see on the right hand side here, this would be coming from outreach. Okay, so this would be coming from outreach. You'd have icebreakers, you'd be collecting the data, you'd have a relevant question, you'd give value up front, and then you'd leave time go by, and then you'd wait 7 to 10 days, and then you'd follow up. So then you'd kickstart it from there. You've given them time to consume whatever product you've given them or resource. They're going to trust you a lot more. It's going to feel a lot less like someone just reaching out trying to take from you. You've proven yourself now, and hopefully they've had time to consume more of your stuff, right? So trust is going to be up, and it's going to be more of a warmer lead. So when you come back to them with a follow-up, and never say the word follow-up, by the way, please ban that from your vocabulary. I've explained in the course why. But anyway, there's two ways of this happening now. So now at this point, you either followed up with them or there's an inbound DM come through. So this is where we're at in the conversation flow from here. So this takes you to pillar number 6, right? And then going on from there, that's where we start to get warmer now. So we go into positive reinforcement, we qualify the lead, then we start to progress forward into more of an interesting conversation now. So now we start to ask them personally, like, what's the goal? Then we find out if they're problem aware. We talk about their struggles. Then we find out if they're solution aware. And then we talk about accountability, right? Especially if it's in the coaching game. We talk about basically where they're at on a scale of self-doubt. So are they extremely confident, overly confident that they can do this on their own? Or are they underconfident? And you need to bring them back to the sweet spot. And again, I've done a video in depth on the course on how you do that, but that makes sense. If you're listening to this and you think, right, you're speaking to a prospect, one is extremely low in confidence, one is extremely high and overconfident. Neither are going to work with you, because one's going to think it's never going to work for me, and the one that's low confidence, and the one that's high confidence is going to think I can do this on my own. So you need to bring them back to a middle ground where they want to work with you and they feel confident it's going to work for them. So that's where we want to get them to by the end of that conversation. We understand exactly what their goal is, exactly what the problem they thought they have. Then we inject a bit of the problem we know they have. We agree on the problem, so then we move forward to finding out what the solution could be. And then after that, we talk about their confidence and figuring out if we can progress forward from that. All of this is explained really easily. Nice little profile at the back there. All of this is explained easily in the course. You understand it fully, and it's far more in depth. This is just a tutorial video going through the overview of what you get. And at that point is when you decide, because this would all be just a setter's flow of conversation naturally at this point up until now. Now you either book the call or you sell in the DMs. So this is when the sell in DMs course really starts, right? Where we start to progress forward now to the sales in the DM. And this is where we go through to the pillars a little bit more. So we go over the offer overview. The welcome pack video is an absolute game changer. So if you haven't seen this is probably the best thing that we ever put into our online service business. It's an absolute game changer. It sells for you in the DMs. It's a one video of 10 to 15 minutes, and it's a welcome pack that literally relates to the person that you want to work with, your dream client. It shows them all the things they're currently doing right now. It shows them the problems they think they have. It shows them the problems that they're unaware of. It shows them the solutions they need to those problems they've agreed on. And then it shows them your service specifics, your deliverables, the next steps. And you basically touch on your packages if you want to. But it explains everything for you, so you never have to repeat that same pitch on a sales call or conversation ever again. So it's an absolute game changer. It builds up a lot of trust with them, and they've now consumed 10 to 15 minutes of time with you, that they've spent their time and invested their time with you, because even that alone is a big deal for people these days. So when it comes to them speaking with you, they trust you, and they trust you a lot more than they would have if they hadn't seen that video, right? So that happens, that's injected in there. The offer is then summarized based on the service that you actually provide, and then you talk about the questions that they might have. This is your chance to get rid of all questions to make sure they're completely clear on what it is they actually get, and this is essential so that they don't bring this up as a stall tactic when you've then talked about packages or pricing later on. You basically want to get all of the objections out of the way, pre-object them all that you're aware of, and that's what the pillars are built for you. So if you haven't got the experience of understanding what the objections are and what the surface level stuff people say is, and then the deep meaningful stuff that they're actually concerned about, this is all built in and has been basically adjusted over time so that we handle this in the pillars leading up to the pitch at the end. So we cover all the conversations. We make sure they're happy with the question, any questions that they've got, and we can progress forward to the next steps. Then we explain what the next steps are. And when I say next steps, I mean what's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 days, following on from them working with you and signing up with you. And this is when they're going to get a little bit potentially, they're going to start to get a little bit worried that you're assuming they're going to work with you, right? But when it's in a DM conversation, it's fine. They've got time to think. They can strategically text back. So there's no issues at all with that. Whereas on a call, you might start to notice that when you're just flowing through this on a conversation. So much easier in the DMs at this point here. Then you bring up the deadline. And the reason for the deadline, this pillar here, is a pre-objection handling technique. The reason we do it is so that we can basically see an insight into their calendar over the next 3-6 months, whatever it's going to be. Whatever your service is, you need to understand that, what the deadline is, and adapt it for yourself. But again, we touch on this in far more depth on the course. But the reason is when we come to the pitch at the bottom, we use this deadline within there, so they can't use it as an objection because we've already said that there's no problem. So sometimes I've gone into way more depth on the course, so I'll explain why on the course, but there's a reason for this, and it's a big one, so don't leave this out. And then we go on to finding the start date. The start date, and this is again where people start to maybe get a little bit, well, I'm not going to definitely go ahead with this. If they have, then it's probably not the right fit anyway, but you're very unlikely to face that in a DM conversation. You just make sure you frame the question right, that if we were to work together, when would be the best time to start? And that's going to tell you their mindset. We go into far more depth again. I feel like I'm repeating myself saying that, but I just want to touch on this as a tutorial video so you understand what you're getting. So these are the pillars, and then we pitch the offer. And then after we've pitched the offer, which is going to have 2 packages usually that they get to choose from, where they get an understanding of price at that point. So they choose the package that suits them best based on their needs. And then the payment terms is when we discuss how they're going to be able to pay for that. Are they going to pay for it in full with a discount? Are they going to pay for it in 3 months, in 6 months? Like, how are they going to pay for that? So payment terms are very different to the overall package that they choose and the service they want. So they're happy with that. Then you discuss payment terms. That's a different conversation, a different pillar that follows afterwards. Again, we break this down in far more depth on the actual course. But then after that, once that's done, you close the deal. Everything should have been taken care of before that in the conversation. So after that point is done, there is nothing stopping them from signing up with you. You may face some objections if it hasn't been done well enough early on in the call or early on in the conversation. Then you might face them now, but just squash that with a voice note and make sure they feel completely comfortable, ready to go ahead with you. And if they do, then it's a win-win and you've closed the deal. And then you take that payment on the call and it's done through a quick link. I use Stripe. It just makes life so much easier. So yeah, and then the next steps, right? So the next steps is extremely important. This final pillar, the sale is done. So why are we talking about anything else? Now, the first 24 hours of a sale, after a sale, is a massive predictor of the LTV and the lifetime, basically amount of time someone's going to spend with you, the experience they're going to have with you, and how trusting they are of you. They've just parted with their money, like I said, with you. So how are they going to feel immediately? How would you feel if you just sent a lot of money to someone and you haven't received anything for the next 24 hours, the next 48 hours, the next week? Maybe some people are terrible. Some people, 2 weeks later, they haven't sent anything over to someone and then they start getting really worried, right? Which is terrible. So first 24 hours, you want to go above and beyond, and whatever their expectations are, you want to go above that. That's a guaranteed way of making someone feel really comfortable and trusting of what you're going to give them is going to be great. So make sure you've got something ready to give that person when they join, whatever it's going to be. It doesn't need to be your service. I'm not saying deliver it in 10 minutes after they pay. I'm saying give them something that's going to help towards what that goal is, that they didn't expect, right? So it's not a way to use as a bonus when you're trying to close the deal. This is an above expectations gift that you give them immediately after they do buy into work with you. So that is done, they trust you, and then you start hopefully having a great relationship working together as a service ongoing. Now, that's the overview of the tutorial. So the whole point of this, and the reason I just explained that, is so that you copy this and you apply it to your own service, your own offer, and you use these pillars in the conversation, whether it's selling in the DMs or selling in the calls, and you ultimately close more deals. Because the whole goal we're doing this with Social Proof is to help genuine service business owners that have social proof, they have results, and they want to get more clients, but they're struggling with the other aspects of running a business. So we want to help you with social proof, turn your viewers, convert your viewers into more customers, more clients. That's what we want to help you do. That's what this channel is all going to be about. So if you do want to subscribe, it's the only way you can support us for free, and it would mean a lot. So only if, and I'm only asking you to do this if you want to either start or scale an online service business. If you want to do those things, it's going to be worth you subscribing to see the type of content we're going to put out, because we're going to pull back the curtain on all of the business knowledge that we have from the years of experience running it ourselves. So hopefully this helps, and hopefully you subscribe. So thank you, and we'll see you soon.